Okay, so let's do an example of a word problem involving subtraction. Okay, so now, in this problem here, again, read the problem carefully. So it says the Frolics left Memphis and drove 356 miles on the first day of their vacation, and they drove 426 miles the second day. If they are on their way to Albuquerque, which is 1,050 miles from Memphis, how many more miles do they have to drive? Okay, so that's the question. Now notice that the phrasing here, how many more miles, indicates that we're going to be doing subtraction. Okay, so there's also addition involved in this, right? So we're going to have to add and then subtract, okay? Because notice that the Frolics, they drove 356 miles the first day, and they drove another 426 miles the next day. So we're going to add these 2 miles to find out how many more miles we have to left to go. And then we're going to subtract that from 1,050. Okay. Now you could also subtract each one of these individually from 1,050. So I could take 1,050 minus 356, right, and get an answer, and then take that answer and then subtract 426 from that answer. I could do it in 2 steps that way as well, okay? But what I think is easier and more intuitive is that, hey, if I drove this many miles the first day and then drove another 426 miles the second day, I would probably want to add those up and then subtract from this number to find out how many more miles I have left to drive. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, we're going to take 356 and then we're going to add 426, and so that's going to give us 782, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 1,050 and now I'm going to subtract off 782. Okay. Now, based on the steps from the last the video before, we're going to start with the ones column, so I can't subtract 2 from 0, so I'm going to borrow from the 5, make that a 4. This becomes a 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. And then now 4 minus 8, again, I can't subtract 8 from 4, so I'm going to borrow. But if I go here, I've got 0. Okay, so I can't borrow 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow from the next column over. So I'm going to borrow from here. This 1 becomes a 0. Now this 0 becomes a 10 because I'm borrowing 10 from this column in a sense, right? So regrouping. So now I'm not going to subtract yet because again, I need to borrow from this 10 because now I can subtract 1. And now this 4 becomes a 14. So sometimes you're going to have to borrow twice. If you know, quote unquote twice. Okay? So now I'm going to take 14 minus 8, which is going to give me 6. And now I'm going to do 9 minus 7, which is 2. And so the answer is 268 miles left to go. Okay, and that's it. That's how you set up the problem. Have a great day.